Hey, so I'm just going to have a quick chat with you about dollar cost averaging and why this is relevant to a potential investment strategy that you could employ. So, dollar cost averaging is essentially just averaging in to the price of something. Obviously, if you're paying in dollars, which all cryptocurrencies are kind of the dollar is used as the benchmark because the dollar is the global currency. So dollar cost averaging means you're buying in regardless of whatever the price is in a uniform fashion. So it's a bit like putting $1,000 or like a 50 quid into a savings account, depending on how rich you are, every sort of month or every sort of week, depending on when you get paid. And the argument for that is that, whatever you do over the course of a long period of time, when you're looking at a long-term investment, if you're paying in and buying the same assets, you're going to be paying a very average price for those assets, which means it allows you to gain more profit. So you might be buying in when it's at its high, you might be buying in at its low, but you're going to be buying in consistently all the way through, which brings that down into an average. So why do people want to dollar cost average into Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's super expensive. So even though Bitcoin has halved recently, pretty much, we're on I want to say 36k in relation to dollars. And it was up at sort of 70 before. People still have a long-term belief in Bitcoin. Now, when I say people, I mean pretty much everybody in the crypto arena. You are going to get some diehard anti-Bitcoin maxis, and I'll explain what Bitcoin maxi is in a second. But you're going to get people on one side who are like, Bitcoin's dead, it's a dying asset, it's had its heyday, whatever. We DeFi, whatever it is. And the reality is, is Bitcoin going to 100x? Is it going to 1,000x? Probably not, as I've said before. It'd be very, very, very surprising. Is it going to 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x? Pretty much guaranteed, unless something else comes along that's better. And so far, we haven't seen that, because it is a totally decentralized entity. So what is a Bitcoin maxi? So a Bitcoin maxi is somebody who believes that Bitcoin is going to save all of humanity, essentially because Bitcoin is a deflationary asset, and as it continues to be mined, eventually, because it's rare, all of the Bitcoins will have been mined. There are only a finite number of them in circulation, which means, as we all know, the price of something is very dictated to by the demand of something. So if somebody, although you could argue that a few ways, different ways, but the reason that the dollar sort of holds its value relatively consistently, although let's see what happens with that, is because it is the global currency. It's the currency that we pay for oil in, and that's where the kind of sort of the power play between kind of China and America comes from, because China wants their currency to be the global currency. I mean, the reality is, if the US wasn't the currency that we're forced to pay oil in, it probably would no longer be the long-standing kind of marker of success that people have considered it to be in the past. So people like Michael Saylor, who is with MicroStrategy, have put Bitcoin on their balance sheet of late, so in the last few years, because they dollar cost average. So he's constantly buying Bitcoin. He doesn't give a shit what the price of Bitcoin is. Everything that happens, what's happening with the Fed, don't care. China banning Bitcoin, don't care. Russia banning Bitcoin, don't care. Putin saying that he's actually keen on Bitcoin, don't care. And then you've got El Salvador saying that I don't know if anyone else has seen this, but that they're going to have a Bitcoin city, and they're looking at Bitcoin ATMs, and they're looking at Bitcoin funds, and everything's going to be backed by Bitcoin. And then obviously you've got all the other cryptocurrencies with their cards coming out, which of course mean we're going to be able to pay for things in Bitcoin. So, I mean, in summary, dollar cost averaging is just a really good way to consistently invest in something that you have belief in over a long period of time, that is going to appreciate in value. It's not for you to make quick money. There are things around that will allow you to make a fast buck. But, with increased risk, and in this market extremely increased risk, then there becomes increased volatility, and there becomes a much higher chance of you actually losing out. If I think about my holding in Bitcoin at the moment, I am probably 50% down because I didn't employ my own strategies, so which means I can actually preach and have to practice what I preach moving forwards, because I've been burnt like every other person that's ever bought Bitcoin or tried to trade. But I have absolute faith that Bitcoin's coming back. My plan with Bitcoin will very much be to continue to buy Bitcoin because it's going to carry on going up. Hopefully it will go down a little bit more before it goes up, because it would be absolutely amazing to buy it at a slightly cheaper price. And just to be quite clear, you don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin. So there's a common misconception that Bitcoin's 26k or 30, like that's the pounds, or $36,000. You don't need to buy $36,000 worth of Bitcoin to have a Bitcoin. You can buy a fraction of that. You can put $50 in, $100 in, and so on and so forth. So there is, as one of my friends who is also a vlogger likes to say, tomorrow never comes. So now is a really, really good time to just get in on that and make sure that you're not going to miss out, because in the future you are 100% going to be kicking yourself now more than you did when you threw away all the Bitcoin that you bought to buy things on the black market many, many years ago that you then lost. So in summary, get out there and buy yourself something, and think about using dollar cost averaging on a weekly or monthly basis in order to try and capitalize on your investments.